My name is Marissa Cole, 32 years old. The night my fiancé joked about becoming a trophy husband, he said it in front of my boss, like it was the funniest thing in the world. We were at my company's holiday party last December, the kind with an open bar and a jazz trio in the corner, trying to make spreadsheets and performance reviews feel glamorous. I'd gone to get our coats when I heard his voice drift over the chatter, warm with alcohol and charm. Once we're married, Ethan was saying to my boss and his wife, I'm definitely taking a break from the corporate grind. Maybe teach yoga, maybe start a wellness channel. Honestly, can't wait to be a trophy husband for a bit and let Marissa take care of me. Everyone laughed. My boss's wife clinked her glass against his and said something about him living the dream. Ethan spotted me across the room, lifted his drink, and gave me a little wink, like we were in on the joke together. I smiled. I smiled because that's what you do at work events when your fiancé is trying to be charming and you're standing next to the woman who signs your performance reviews. I smiled and slipped my arm through his and played along when he said, Right, babe, you've got us? Because what was I supposed to do? Say no? But something in my brain clicked, not loudly, not dramatically, just a small, sharp sound like a hairline fracture starting. Because this wasn't the first time. For months, Ethan had been dropping little comments, casual throwaway lines about how exhausting his job was, how the corporate grind was killing his soul, how amazing it must be to wake up and decide your only meeting for the day is with your yoga mat. He'd talk about wanting to focus on making our place a home, about needing time to work on himself and explore his passions. Whenever I raised an eyebrow, he'd laugh and say, Relax, I'm just kidding, mostly. That mostly had started to bother me. That night, after the party, after the Uber ride home where he fell asleep against my shoulder, smelling like whiskey and cologne, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. I kept seeing my boss's polite smile, hearing Ethan's voice saying, Marissa will take care of me, like it was already decided. I thought about Terrence, my old college friend, whose husband had done something similar, quit his job 3 months after they got married, never went back, and now Terrence was working 70-hour weeks to cover a lifestyle 2 salaries had built, while his husband posted smoothie bowls and inspirational quotes all day. I loved Ethan. I really did. He was kind when it counted, funny, loyal in a dozen ways that used to make me feel safe. But lying there in the dark, I couldn't shake the image of myself 5 years from now, exhausted and resentful, carrying all the weight while he worked on himself. 2 days later, I made an appointment with a family lawyer, not to cancel the wedding. That thought made my stomach twist. I didn't want out. I wanted protection. I wanted to know that if Ethan's jokes turned into a plan, I wouldn't be blindsided and trapped. The lawyer's office was cooler than I expected, all glass and pale wood and neatly stacked binders. She was in her 40s, direct and calm. The kind of person who made you feel like your panic could be sorted into labeled folders if you just told her everything clearly enough. So, she said, after I explained about the holiday party, the hints, the way Ethan's parents talked about a good woman supporting her man. You want a prenup? I want a partnership, I said, but I also want a prenup. We went through my finances, senior analyst at a consulting firm, about $120,000 a year. Ethan's job, marketing coordinator at a tech startup, around $65,000. Not a huge gap, but enough that everyone in his orbit seemed very comfortable pretending I was the automatic safety net. The usual prenup covers assets, premarital property, inheritance, the lawyer said, scribbling notes. But in your case, there's also an ongoing income imbalance. You're worried about unilateral decisions, someone quitting work without a plan. Exactly, I said. If Ethan and I sit down together and decide it makes sense for him to go back to school or start a business, I'll support that. But I don't want to wake up 3 months after the wedding and find out I'm suddenly the only adult in the room. She nodded like she'd heard this more than once. We can add an employment clause. We crafted it together. It was almost beautiful in its brutal clarity. Standard asset protection with one special line. If either party voluntarily leaves employment or reduces their income by more than 40% without the written consent of the other, they become responsible for paying spousal support, alimony, calculated as a percentage of their previous salary for 3 years in case of divorce. In plain language, you quit your job to be a trophy spouse without mutual agreement, you pay me. It cuts both ways, my lawyer reminded me. If you decide to walk away from work without his consent, you'd owe him. Good, I said. It should be fair. The following week, I brought it up over dinner. We were at our usual Thai place, sharing pad see ew and green curry. Hey, I said as casually as I could, my financial advisor suggested we do a prenup. Just standard stuff, protecting both of us. Might be smart. Ethan blinked, then laughed. Wow, romantic. Romantic is not being ruined financially if something goes wrong, I said lightly. We both have careers, assets. It's just grown-up planning. He shrugged. Sure. I mean, it's not like we're ever getting divorced anyway, right? Right, I said. I'll have the lawyer send it over. For 3 weeks, he didn't mention it. We went back to wedding planning, arguing about chair covers and cake flavors, him joking about eloping to Vegas, me pretending not to notice how quickly he agreed to every spendy upgrade. The prenup lived in his inbox, unopened, while I wondered whether his silence meant acceptance or avoidance. One Saturday morning, I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard him shout from the home office, "What the hell is this?" He marched into the kitchen with his laptop, face flushed, eyes blazing. "This," he said, jabbing at the screen. "Employment clause. What the hell is this about?" I stirred sugar into my coffee, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Which clause?" "The one that says I have to pay you if I stop working. Are you insane?" "It says if either of us voluntarily leaves employment or cuts our income without the other's written consent, we owe support. It protects us both." "From what?" he demanded. "From me being a husband? From us starting a family? From me taking care of our home?" "The clause has exceptions," I said evenly. "Medical leave, caring for small children, anything we mutually agree on." "Did you read that part?" His mouth opened, then closed. He scrolled, eyes flicking over lines he'd clearly skipped. "This is insulting," he said finally, voice shaking. "You think I'm some kind of gold digger?" "No," I said. "I think you've been talking a lot about not working lately. At the holiday party, you told my boss you couldn't wait to be a trophy husband. That wasn't the first comment." "That was a joke," he snapped. "Everyone knew it." "Was it?" I held his gaze. "Because you've also been talking about how much you hate your job, about wanting to make our home your focus, about how your friends' girlfriends let them take time off." He went quiet for a moment. His eyes were shiny now, anger blurred with hurt. "I can't believe you don't trust me," he whispered. "Maybe we shouldn't get married if you think so little of me." My chest constricted. "I love you, Ethan. This isn't about not trusting you. It's about not being comfortable waking up one day as someone's full-time provider by surprise. If we decide together that you should stop working, that's different. This just makes sure we have that conversation before one of us jumps." He stared at me, jaw clenched. Then he turned and walked out of the kitchen. The silent treatment lasted 3 days. On the 4th day, his mother called and invited me to lunch. Ethan's mother chose the kind of restaurant with $18 salads and waiters who look offended if you ask for tap water. She greeted me with a strained smile, the kind that's meant to look warm but doesn't reach the eyes, then clasped my hands like she was about to deliver tragic news. "Sweetheart," she sighed the moment we sat down, "this prenup nonsense has really shaken Ethan. He's very hurt." I forced a polite smile. "I'm sure he is." "You have to understand," she continued, leaning forward. "Marriage is about love and trust, not contracts." She said contracts like it was a slur. I folded my napkin calmly. Marriage is also about partnership, communication, and not making unilateral decisions that affect both people. She frowned as if I'd spoken in riddles. Women have sacrificed their careers for families forever. It's natural for a man to want support from his wife. I blinked. The irony was suffocating. "Having children is one thing," I said, keeping my voice neutral, "and the prenup has exceptions for that. But Ethan has told me repeatedly he wants to wait at least 5 years for kids. He doesn't want to stop working to raise a family. He wants to stop working because he doesn't like his job." Her lips tightened. "Well, what's wrong with that? You make plenty of money." "Ethan's job pays $65,000. Mine pays $120," I explained. "Our mortgage, cars, insurance, basic expenses run about $70 a year. That leaves $15 for everything else. Savings, emergencies, retirement, vacations." "You're exaggerating." "I'm not," I said quietly. "Even with raises, supporting 2 adults on one income means no savings, no safety net, one layoff away from disaster, and Ethan wants to quit without a plan." She sniffed. "You're being cynical." "No," I said gently. "I'm being realistic. Lunch ended with her declaring the prenup an act of coldness and storming out without finishing her kale salad. I paid the bill. That night, Ethan came home with his father. His father sat on our couch like he owned the place, arms crossed over his chest. "Let's talk, man, to—" He paused, catching himself. "Let's talk." "Okay," I said, sitting across from him. "This prenup is unnecessary," he said. "You're scaring my son." "Did Ethan tell you," I asked, "that he plans to quit his job after we get married?" His father shifted. "He mentioned taking some time off." "Did he mention he hasn't saved a dime for that time off?" I asked softly. "That he hasn't made a plan? That he's assuming I'll cover everything?" Silence. "The prenup protects both of us," I continued. "If he decided to quit his job to pursue woodworking or wellness, blogging, or anything else, he would be protected too. It cuts both ways." "That's different," his father said, offended. "You're the woman." And there it was, the real issue. The expectation hidden beneath the jokes and hints and "relax, babe." "No," I said calmly. "It's not different. We both work. We both contribute. And if one of us wants to stop working, we decide together." Ethan's father stood abruptly. "We'll talk later," and walked out. Ethan stayed at his parents' that night. 2 days later, he came back with a thick packet of papers and a tight, determined expression. "I got my own lawyer," he said, dropping the papers onto the kitchen table. "Here's my counterproposal." I scanned the pages. My eyebrows hit my hairline. His version allowed him to leave work any time after 2 years of marriage, with no penalties. I would support him during his transition period, up to 2 years. Standard alimony rules would apply based on lifestyle. I laughed. I actually laughed, which made his cheeks flush with anger. "Ethan," I said, "this is worse than no prenup at all. This literally guarantees you can quit, and I have to pay for it." "It's compromise," he snapped. "No," I said. "It's exactly what you've been planning anyway, just in writing." "You're being unreasonable." "Am I?" I slid the papers back toward him. "Let me ask you something. What exactly would you do if you quit your job?" He lifted his chin. "I told you, maybe teach yoga. Start a wellness brand." "Have you looked into yoga certification?" I asked. "It costs $3,000 to $5,000. He went still. "Have you saved for it?" No response. "Have you researched how to build a brand, grow an audience, monetize content, study SEO, create a business plan?" More silence. "So your plan," I said, voice soft, "is quit job, figure it out later, while I pay for everything." "When you say it like that, how else should I say it?" He clenched his jaw, tears welled. "I hate my job, Marissa." "I know," I said gently, "and I want to help you find something better, but quitting with no plan isn't the answer." "Other people do it," he argued. "My friend Jason's wife let him take time off." "Jason's wife makes $400,000 a year," I reminded him. "We are not them." He deflated. We talked for hours, really talked, for the first time in weeks. He was shocked to see our real budget, shocked to realize how little wiggle room we had, shocked at how much he'd been assuming I could shoulder. He agreed to think things over, but thinking wasn't enough, because the next blow landed from someone I didn't expect, his coworker. I ran into Jenna at happy hour, and she told me something that made my stomach drop. Ethan had been interviewing for other jobs, but he was bombing them, intentionally. "He told the last interviewer," Jenna whispered, "that he couldn't work Mondays because of his aura cleansing schedule. He wants to get fired so he can collect unemployment." Unemployment. A year of figuring things out, paid for by me. That night, I confronted him. "You're trying to get fired," I said. "Aren't you?" He stiffened. "Who told you that?" "It doesn't matter," I said. "Is it true?" He hesitated. Then, "Maybe. If I got laid off, I could spend time figuring out my path. It's not fraud if they fire me." "Ethan," I whispered, "what the hell is going on?" He crumbled. For the first time, the real story spilled out. His friend group, the men he hung out with, their WhatsApp group, a group called Trophy Husbands in Training. I stared at him, understanding hitting me like a punch to the ribs. Everything he'd done suddenly made sense, and everything was about to get worse. "Show me the group chat," I said. Ethan froze like a child caught with a stolen cookie. His eyes darted to his phone on the counter, face flushing a deep, guilty red. "Marissa, show me." My voice was low, steady, and colder than I felt inside. He swallowed hard, his throat jerking. For a moment, he looked like he might refuse, but he knew. He knew this was the moment he either told the truth or lost me forever. Hands trembling, he unlocked his phone and opened WhatsApp. One tap. The screen lit up with a group title that made my stomach twist. Trophy Husbands in Training. I grabbed the phone from his hand. There were 8 members, Ethan, a handful of his male friends, and a familiar name at the top, Hannah, his ex-girlfriend. My pulse thudded in my ears. Why is Hannah in here? Ethan's voice cracked. She started the group. I scrolled, and my heart sank. There were months of messages, strategy sessions, playbooks, tips. Tears help. Cry about burnout. Women hate seeing men struggle. Self-care is a full-time job, bro. Just say you want to focus on your inner peace. Works every time. Then the kicker, from Hannah. Manifest a soft life. Let them handle the grind. If you play it right, you can be on a break forever. Then Ethan. Marissa is so responsible. She'll probably take over everything if I quit LOL. Her boss thinks I'm hilarious. The trophy husband joke killed. She won't say no if I frame it as mental health. My chest tightened. Another message from a friend. Push her into signing a prenup that benefits you. Make her think it's protecting her, then quit after the wedding. And finally, like a knife, Marissa's lawyer ruined everything. Need a workaround. It took every ounce of self-control not to throw his phone across the room. I handed it back, shaking. You planned this, not just a joke at a party. You've been planning to quit your job and live off me. He ran a hand through his hair, panic rising in his voice. Marissa, it wasn't, yes, I talked about it, but it was stupid guy talk. Hannah's been pushing all this. You're blaming your ex for a scheme you willingly joined? My laugh was hollow. I hate my job, he whispered. I feel trapped, burned out. All my friends get to chill because their girlfriends support them. And I thought, maybe. You thought I'd take care of everything, I finished. You thought I'd become your safety net. I just needed a break, he said miserably. I didn't know how to ask you. You didn't ask, I said. You plotted. He flinched. And you tried to get fired. My voice was shaking now, on purpose, so I would pay for everything while you figured out your path. He cupped his face in his hands. I messed up, okay? I'm overwhelmed. I feel like everyone else gets to breathe but me. You don't get to breathe by suffocating me, I snapped. He froze. I took a slow, steady breath. Here are your choices, Ethan. 1. Sign the original prenup exactly as written, including the employment clause, or 2. The wedding is off. Fear flickered across his face. Marissa, you have 72 hours, I said. That's when our venue deposit becomes non-refundable. Silence. Thick, heavy, full of everything between us that had shattered. The next 3 days were a blur of pressure, manipulation, and emotional whiplash. First came love bomb Ethan. He cooked, he cleaned, he gave me long, teary apologies about being insecure and losing his way. He blamed Hannah, he blamed burnout, he blamed society's expectations, everything except himself. Then came angry Ethan. You're controlling, he snapped. This prenup is a trap. You're treating me like a child. What kind of woman demands this? I said nothing. I didn't have to. He knew. Then came the reinforcements. His mom called. Honey, this prenup is so unromantic. Men sometimes need support. You can carry him. His dad called. Just sign your name and stop making this complicated. Both got the same answer. No. Then came actual bribery. His father offered to pay for the entire wedding if we removed the clause. His mother suggested setting aside a house husband salary for Ethan in a trust, like domestic wages for dusting the shelves once a week. I stared at her. Do you hear yourself? It's not crazy, she insisted. Being a supportive spouse is work. Our apartment takes 4 hours a week to clean, I said flatly, and we barely cook. She had no reply. 24 hours before the deadline, Ethan showed up at the door with red eyes, trembling hands, and the prenup in one fist. He slapped it onto the table. There, he said. Happy? I'm trapped now. I didn't react. I simply picked it up and checked the signature. Everything was correct. Everything was legal. Everything was wrong. He sank onto the couch. You don't understand the pressure men face. We're supposed to be strong, successful, driven. And when we're not, we get judged. It's exhausting. I sat across from him, heart aching and furious all at once. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to be honest. To be a partner, not a dependent. He looked away. That was the moment I knew. Even if he signed the prenup, I wasn't sure I could marry a man who had planned to deceive me, who saw me as a lifeline instead of a life partner. I needed time. Ethan, however, needed backup. The next morning, he walked into our apartment with 3 people behind him. Mallory, a loud-mouthed friend of his, Hannah, his ex, and a young guy he introduced as Trevor. Marissa, Ethan said, Trevor is giving me legal advice. Trevor blinked. I'm actually still in law school, but I cut him off. So you're giving legal advice without a license? I pointed at the door. Leave now. Trevor bolted. Mallory stayed. You can't just kick us out. We're here to support Ethan. You're trespassing, I said calmly. Get out. She sputtered with indignation but left. I closed the door behind them and turned to Ethan. "We need to talk," I said. He collapsed onto the couch, defeated. I sat across from him. "I don't want to marry you," I said quietly. He didn't even look surprised. "Because I want to quit my job?" he whispered. "No," I said, "because you lied, because you planned to deceive me, because you let your friends and your ex shape the future you expected me to pay for, because you never asked what I wanted. You only asked what you could get." Tears spilled down his cheeks. "I hate working," he admitted softly. "I just wanted a break." "Most people hate working," I said. "That's why they call it a job, not a hobby." He wiped his face. Maybe Hannah was right. Maybe I deserve someone who will take care of me. "Then marry someone who wants that," I said gently. "But it's not me." He didn't argue. He didn't beg, because he knew. We called off the wedding that night. Calling off the wedding should have brought silence, closure, a clean break. Instead, it kicked off a storm I didn't realize Ethan had the capacity to create. For the first week, he went through what I can only describe as a meltdown tour. He told everyone, his family, his friends, mutual acquaintances, co-workers, that I was financially abusive, cold, unromantic, and my personal favorite, deeply threatened by feminine men. The narrative made no sense, but logic wasn't exactly the fuel powering him at that stage. Then he escalated. He implied I cheated. He implied I manipulated him. He even implied, bizarrely, that I was secretly gay and using him for cover. It was so wild I had to laugh. Unfortunately, his friends didn't. They flooded my social media with insults and passive-aggressive comments until I blocked every one of them. His parents called, voice trembling with outrage, threatening to sue me for breach of promise. My lawyer shut that down with a single email explaining that legally, in 2024, that is not a thing. They backed off immediately. But the chaos wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the quiet. Those long evenings in my now too-large apartment. The ghost of wedding plans lingering in corners. The invitations I never sent. The venue deposit I'd already paid. The dress I'd chosen with trembling excitement in a boutique 2 towns over, suddenly boxed and pathetic in a closet. Grief is strange. It sneaks into the smallest things. The mug he always used. The playlist he made for long drives. The plant he insisted we name Gary. I watered Gary twice that week, then stopped. But something else happened too. Something that pulled me out of the spiral faster than I expected. A coworker of Ethan's ran into me at a cafe. Jenna. She hesitated before approaching, but then leaned in like she was telling me a secret she couldn't hold anymore. "He got fired," she whispered. I blinked. "What?" "Ethan," she said. "HR let him go. He wasn't just sabotaging interviews, he was sabotaging everything. Missed deadlines, pushed tasks off on others, made excuses. He was trying to get laid off for the severance package. But because he did it so blatantly, he was fired for cause." I stared at her, stunned. "For cause means—" "No unemployment," she confirmed. "He actually asked his manager if he could get it." His manager laughed. She shook her head. "I'm sorry. I know this must be hard, but you dodged something big." I left the cafe feeling oddly lighter. It wasn't joy at Ethan's failure, not even close. It was validation. For once, the universe wasn't gaslighting me. The unraveling didn't stop there. Within 2 weeks, Ethan moved back in with his parents. Within 3, they'd given him an ultimatum. Get a job or get out. He got a job, retail, earning about 30 grand a year. For the first time, he understood the reality of relying on someone else. Meanwhile, the Trophy Husbands in Training group imploded spectacularly. Jason's girlfriend found the chat when his phone lit up in the middle of the night. She dumped him on the spot. Another member, Reed, managed to quit for 6 months before his partner's startup collapsed, and suddenly he was back in the job market with a 6-month gap and nothing to show for it. The ringleader, Hannah's new boyfriend, walked out after discovering voice recordings where she bragged about finessing men into funding her lifestyle. He took his expensive gifts back, all of them. It was like the universe lined everyone up and said, enough. Except that's not the end. Because 3 months after our breakup, Ethan emailed me. A long, rambling, overly emotional apology where he blamed toxic male influences, burnout, his parents, his ex, and the grind culture of modern society. He said he realized too late how much he loved me, how he'd been foolish, how he could change, how we deserved another chance. He ended the message with, "Please let me show you I'm better now. I miss you. I miss us." I read the email twice, then replied with one sentence. "No, good luck with everything." His response was another paragraph-long rant blaming me for destroying his life. I didn't reply. Life moved on, slowly, quietly, carefully. I started therapy, picked up running again, reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the relationship, bought myself a new coffee machine that didn't hold Ethan's fingerprints. Then something unexpected happened. Our firm hired a new senior analyst, Noah. Sharp, kind, funny, in a soft-spoken way. We clicked instantly, not romantically, not at first, but in that rare way where conversation feels effortless and you never have to shrink yourself to be understood. One day after a long client meeting, we grabbed dinner, just two coworkers decompressing. I mentioned the prenup situation when marriage came up in a hypothetical conversation. He almost choked on his water. "Oh my God," he said. "Only idiots get married without one." I blinked. "Really?" "Of course," he said matter-of-factly. "It's responsible. It protects both people. Anyone who makes it weird doesn't understand finances or partnership." He said it like breathing. No defensiveness, no fear, no resentment, just truth. And something in me unclenched. For the first time in years, I realized what I wanted wasn't a man who needed me. I wanted a man who could stand beside me. Noah wasn't emotional fireworks. He was steady light, warmth after a long winter. And slowly, bit by bit, we began seeing each other. No wild drama, no manipulation, no trophy husband jokes. Just honesty, curiosity, and the kind of humor that makes you feel safe laughing. One evening, months later, as we shared takeout on my couch, he said casually, "If we ever get serious, we should do a prenup, obviously." I smiled. Obviously. And I realized I might actually be falling in love with someone new, someone different, someone who didn't want to be carried but wanted to walk beside me. People say wedding deposits are a waste when things fall apart. But sometimes $5,000 is the cheapest education you'll ever buy. When someone tells you they want to be a trophy husband, believe them and go.